your company does.
Sure, I'm Ralph Dangelmaier, and my company is called BlueSnap. We're a payment gateway for all those that are looking to get paid using cards. That's what we do.
I'm Klein. My company's called Amplify. We're trying to reimagine the whole education K-12 system in Maryland.
I'm Rappaport, co-founder and CEO of Flocabulary. We're an online video library of educational rap videos and instructional tools for grades K through 12.
My name is Roee Adler from WeWork. We build communities for entrepreneurs, freelancers, and small businesses.
My name is Broverman. I'm co-founder of Betterment. We help answer the question, what should I do with my money? So we manage people's money online using technology to automate the process.
So my first question is, what was the moment that you realized that there was a market for what it is you did? What was that pain point for you?
Well, my backstory is I started my career as a full-time practicing attorney. I had known my business partner for a number of years when we started to develop this concept. It was his idea first. He started telling me about it, and I said, I absolutely need that because I have no time. I'm making a little bit of money for the first time in my life, and this applies to me, it applies to a lot of older people. I just don't know the best solution, the best way to do something with my money. I need some help. Please, let me give you my money and you manage it. And he said, well, actually, you can come help with the business.
Cool. So what differentiates your business from Smith Barney or?
Sure. So at Betterment, everything we do is based on technology. It's really taking the best practices of wealth management and putting in building software around it to automate the process. What that means for people is, first of all, it's all online, it's all accessible. That's how people want to manage their finances in this day and age. Secondly, we can provide really the best-in-class, world-class experience at a fraction of the cost of what a traditional wealth manager can provide. And thirdly, can really do it better because we can pay attention to some of the more recent learnings from academia, like behavioral finance, and help people correct for their own bad behaviors. These are things that it's hard to counteract when you're just a normal human and you're all prone to mistakes.
Nice. Well, I'm very familiar with WeWork. We take over your Hollywood office with Vanity Fair 2-3 times a year, and I think it's going to be even more than that this year. So thank you so much. We love you.
Sure, with pleasure.
So talk about how WeWork started. I mean, you're everywhere, all over the world. I know, because I drop in all over the world.
First, I want to start by saying that as a very heavy customer of Betterment, this is something really special you guys should really check out.
I loved what you said about, you correct for bad behavior. My bad behavior is the buy it now button on Amazon.
we haven't come up with a solution for that, but I had the same problem.
Yes.
So we were started by Adam Newman and Miguel McKelvey. Both of them, their upbringing came from very communal places. So Adam grew in a kibbutz in Israel, which is a failed social experiment from the 50s where people tried to build true communes where there will be no property, the opposite of capitalism. From a financial perspective, this social experiment failed disastrously. But the children who grew up in those places are the happiest and most fulfilled you can find. And Miguel, our other co-founder, also grew up in a commune in Oregon. So both of them came from an extremely communal background, and when they both started building businesses and being involved in the corporate world here in the US, they realized that a lot was missing for people to truly fulfill themselves when they want to work for themselves. And this rides on this macroeconomic phenomena that the tendency for people to want to work for themselves versus go work for a large corporation has been really shifting in the past few years. And so the idea was to create a solution for people who want to fulfill themselves and work on something that they love and not having to worry about other aspects of growing and running the business in a very communal way. And gladly this really hit off. The first building was through within about 2 weeks, and we've been running ever since.
Wonderful.
All right, guys, can everyone hear us up here? Okay, excellent. We can't hear each other, so it's sort of like a...
That's why we're staring at each other, so we can read the lips.
Yeah, exactly. My name is Alex, and we started Flocabulary just over 10 years ago, really based on the idea that kids deserve to be learning in a way that's fun and interesting and engaging and accessible for them. And we use music to teach because, as I'm sure you've experienced in your own life, music is not just a wonderful way to learn. I mean, if you've ever thought about the number of songs that you have memorized, even sort of passively memorized, it's a wonderful way to kind of remember information. But more than that, it's also just part of being human is loving music. And what we saw in classrooms when we first started out was that music isn't really valued after around kindergarten. And so, jumping out of the shoes of someone like Schoolhouse Rock, we thought if we could do something like that for this generation, we'd really be kind of awakening that spirit of learning in all kids. And so we now have an online subscription program, about 700 videos for grades K through 12, and really are focused on students of all backgrounds, but particularly those who struggle with traditional learning methods. And we think there are a lot of problems to be solved in education, and I think it's great that education startups are very active right now.
Have you gone to K-12? I homeschool.
Oh yeah.
And there's like a bazillion homeschoolers, and they're getting even more and more as people pull their kids out of public school.
Right.
I think that's a huge market for you.
Yeah, absolutely. We've mostly been focused on K-12, but I agree, homeschool is awesome too.
K12.com.
Oh, K12.com. All right.
Yeah, it's public school at home. It's telecommuting to school.
I have to check it out. Thank you.
Anyhow, one proof point for you, obviously, and I'm sure people have seen the Hamilton show here in New York. Greatest way to teach history for these kids. I've just been amazed at how many young kids I've seen go see Hamilton and are totally rocked by it. My name is Joel, and I'm a similar position to Alex in a sense. I ran the schools in New York for about 8.5 years, and for me the main point was that we did lots of things. We closed schools. We tried to make sure people like you didn't homeschool your kids. We opened up 700 schools, charter schools, traditional public schools. We made principals much more accountable. But I found that the piece that was missing was we didn't give the support, the information, the tools, and the data to our teachers. And I kept thinking that that was the key investment. If we were going to ultimately transform it, we had to do that. And so when I left the school system in 2010, almost 5 years ago to the day actually, I decided to open up an ed tech company. Originally did that with News Corp, but now taking it private. And basically what we're doing is a little different from what Alex is doing. We're trying to be totally solutions driven. So we have a curriculum that literally gives the teacher 180 days worth of material to work through with kids, lots of data on how much the kids are reading, data that differentiates performance, customizes the learning experience, and I think will be ultimately the future of K-12 in America.
I agree.
I like you more even than when I first met you.
I'm all about education reform. My kid is ADD Asperger's, and we made it through first grade and 2 weeks of second grade before I was like, yeah, we're done.
Technology is going to radically transform the whole special ed space, radically.
Well, he's 180 IQ. Try putting that in public school. Even private school. Doesn't work.
Hi, I'm Ralph from BlueSnap. So what we do is we help all these businesses monetize and get paid. Right? And so our startup started in Israel because all the startups in Israel needed a better payment gateway to collect funds overseas. And I think a little myth that goes out to the startups is that everybody is reading all these gateways online and don't realize that many of these payment gateways really work well in their country. And they don't work well cross-border, cross-country, especially if selling digital products online. So we're really in business to try to make sure that the checkout experience is as frictionless as something like Uber, and to make sure that those cross-border transactions, the cards that are issued in another country being purchased in a different country, actually clear. And so you don't have declines. And so this is actually a big problem that's growing with startups right now. They spend tons and tons of time investing in their products. And at the very end, they say, oh, we got to connect to a payment gateway. Oh, let's just use someone like Braintree and Stripe. And they don't realize that might be actually the wrong call for them going forward.
Well, taking payments with Stripe is super easy. Accounting with Stripe sucks.
Right.
Sorry.
So, and you can read all this online, but the accounting, the import, export, the reporting, there's a lot of issues there that people don't realize. So you really, if you're going to go globally, you need a different payment gateway, and that's what we do.
That rolls right into, you're probably going to say the exact same thing. My next question, I'll start down here, is for startups, what is the biggest piece of advice that you can give them? Because there are a lot of startups in the room, and I want to have them tap into your combined experience.
I think from a payment point of view, I'll just say a couple things. First of all, many of these startups, they don't stay focused. They start changing direction very, very quickly. We see that. Second thing, I think they haven't thought through how they're going to monetize things, how they're really going to make money. Is a subscription model, where the subscription is going to come from. Most people don't think much about pricing. They don't understand that $9 a month is actually looks very much like a fraudulent transaction to a bank. And they think they're pricing really smart, and they're actually not, and they really should make it like 15 or 20, because a fraudster is usually not going to use that number when they make a transaction. And we also see that people get expanded in a certain geography, and they're not ready to deal with it. They don't have languages, they don't have payment types, they really don't know how to go into that country, so they go into that country the same way they would treat an American. And it just doesn't work that way. And I'll give one example, like Brazil's a very hot country right now. Brazil pays everything on an installment. And a lot of times people will go in and say, well, pay me my $50 up front, my $40 up front. And we saw a lot of educational software down in Brazil and Latin America, and those products just don't sell at all because they're not putting it on an installment plan. So there's very little thinking into how do I price, how do I monetize, how do I go after a market that may be particularly hot for my product, and then they have to redo all of their plumbing to try to make that whole work. So we end up fixing a lot of problems for startups as they continue on their path. So we have about 2,000 merchants just from Israel right now that we work with, which is quite a bit.
Thank you.
Sort of a derivative of that, I think too many startups are really focused on tech and focused on product, and they're not focused on their market. And so as a result, they sort of become inward looking and upset. And tech matters, something, and product obviously matters. But if you don't find a connection to your market, then you're ultimately going to be inwardly looking and navel gazing. And pretty soon you're going to, and I've seen this so many times, people can't figure out how to monetize. They think free eyeball. When I was running the schools, a guy came to me with a great product. He said to me, a third of your teachers have signed up for my email service for free. He said, and they love it, it's great. Well, why don't you buy it for the other 2/3? I said, I got a better idea. Why don't you give it for free to the other 2/3? It worked well for the first third, it'll work even better for the next 2/3. So that's the first point. Understand your market, no matter how internally focused you are. The second point, and I think this is critical, because there's this big notion you've got to constantly pivot and constantly change in response to your market. And understanding your market doesn't mean you have to be an impulse-driven person. It means you've got to understand it, you've got to be able to move with it, but don't constantly be pivoting. Figure out how much resource you have, how much time, how long your investors will stay with you, but don't constantly pivot, or at some point you're going to end up not only missing the market, but losing the market.
Yeah, I agree with Joel on one of these points. I think too many startups put kind of a cloak over them and develop products for 2 or 3 years without ever interacting with the market. And so my advice to any startup is to be constantly collecting feedback and adapting when you learn that feedback is meaningful. So, we set up our sales team to be a feedback engine, our product team to be a feedback engine. And I've also seen a lot of startups go under when they have too much hubris about thinking that they know what a certain market needs. So get out there, be transparent, listen to your customers. And then how many people here are in early stage startups or starting a company now? All right, so quite a few of you. The other thing I would say to the very early stage people is don't be afraid to talk about your idea. Too many early stage entrepreneurs are protective over what they're doing, and they think that people will steal their idea. No one will steal your idea, I promise. Your idea is 10% of your battle, and the rest is, the 90% is the execution. So you never know who you're going to meet at this conference or in a bar later or at some family member's wedding. Talk about your idea, it helps you refine it, and it helps you make connections.
So I agree with everything that was said before. I will add my 2 cents. I would advise everyone to be able to think high and think low, by which I mean there's a question you need to be able to answer about your startup. That is, if I succeed beyond my wildest dreams, how is the world different? And if that answer is too small or shallow, then you gotta think bigger. That being said, every day, every week, you gotta be able to ask yourself, is there more I can do? And just like the high question would be, how is the world different? The low question should be, how do I know if I had a good week? So when this week is over and on the Monday, how should Friday look like for you to feel this was an amazing week for me? Execution, execution, execution. So the combination of the two, I think, is the magical recipe.
So I'll give two ideas. One is, I love hard businesses that are really a pain in the butt to build and to scale, because generally, I think if you look in the areas where there's really tough challenges to building and operating a business, there's opportunity, and that's where you can see things that are broken, a place to really make a difference, and then you end up with a business with protectable advantages. So in our case at Betterment, when we started the company, we thought a lot about how can we make investing, saving, and planning for the future be better. If you come to Betterment today, you see all sorts of beautiful web and mobile applications, and you get great advice and this really intuitive experience to help you invest. What's underneath that? It's an investment account. And if you think about any investment account you maybe have, whether it's an IRA, or maybe it's your 401k, maybe it's just a standard Morgan Stanley Smith Barney brokerage account, there's always plumbing. You need to get your money into that account. You need to get the account open, deal with all sorts of forms and documentation. When we started Betterment, we thought about, well, can we just build the web layers and then partner with a legacy firm? And what we found was that wasn't going to be an adequate solution. We weren't going to be able to have the product experience that we really wanted. We weren't going to have the economics that were going to drive the business, and we weren't going to have the best ways possible to acquire customers. So we built all of the underneath part, really fully vertically integrated our business. That was tough going. It actually took us, we started working on the company in 2007. We didn't launch until 2010. It took a long time. I don't know if I necessarily recommend 3 years to launch a business.
You had a little bump in the road there with the recession, though.
Well, we were in development at that point. That wasn't really what held us back. What held us back was getting regulatory permissions. It took a long time to deal with the SEC and FINRA and get them to believe in us as an institution where people were going to send their money and to develop the technology. At the end of the day, though, we have other competitors. If you have a successful idea, other people will come compete with you, whether it's other startups or it's incumbents in the space. And we're in a position now where we're growing twice as fast as our nearest competitors. And that's because if you come to the Betterment site, you go to a competitor's site, you're 4 times as likely to complete the process of actually signing up for an account. And the reasons for that all go back to the plumbing that we built, instead of dealing with old plumbing where you might have to mail something in, or you might have to sign the form and fax or get on the phone. The other thing I'll just talk about quickly is just the concept of an MVP, of a minimum viable product. And I think some of the other panels have hit on similar ideas. It's really important to not get caught up in building a monolithic product or a monolithic feature release where you think you have all the answers and the perfect plan to address the market need. If you can thin slice a problem and get a minimum amount out there and start getting feedback, I promise your company will move faster and you will avoid a lot of wasted time. So one example of that from several years back at Betterment, I'll give you 2 examples actually. One was that we thought it would be a great idea to build a gifting product where people could actually contribute money to somebody else's Betterment account. We thought about a huge build for this. We settled on a sort of minor build for it. It turned out to be a real failure. People really didn't use that product, and we saved ourselves a lot of wasted time. Another example is a lot of our customers started asking for joint accounts. This was 4 years ago. We had limited resources. And when we dug into that request, what we found out was people didn't really care so much about having 2 names on the account. They just cared about survivor rights. They wanted to make sure that if they passed away, that the money would go to their next of kin. So we just built that part of it, not the full joint account part, which actually would have been a 10 times larger build. We got to that eventually, but we got 3 years of information and data and understanding how to build the right thing before we actually took the big plunge.
Awesome. You actually jumped right over my next question and answered it, which is perfect. So have you faced a challenge and then how did you overcome it? Like an unexpected challenge, it was like, ugh. You know, a lot of startups, they fail when they hit that wall. But people who succeed, like everyone on this panel, it's because you have ingenuity and creativity and you can think your way out of the box. So what was that box for you?
I will refer on that to actually my previous startup called Soludo, where we were fortunate enough to win a very important competition called TechCrunch Disrupt in 2010, where I met Betterment because we competed on the...
They beat us.
Yeah, good times, good times. We became sort of an overnight success, and our free product was adopted by millions of people, and we were in the New York Times and BBC and CNN and all around. And we raised a lot of money as a result of that, and things were going great, but the reality was that when time came to grow up and start monetizing, we discovered that it was very difficult. So even though we grew and we sold and we have seen success in the revenue side of the world, a huge learning point for me was that there's no such thing as a product and the distribution and monetization. It's got to be all baked in. So when you think about the product, if you don't know how you're going to sell it, just don't do it. As in, figure out how you will be selling it and only then start doing that. And so Soludo ended up being acquired for a hefty sum. It was very successful, but it could have been 10 times more, I think, had we thought about those issues at the beginning. So this will be my tip.
Yeah, I mean, so I'll first start by saying that Flocabulary is a bootstrapped company, and I say that as a matter of pride because so much of the narrative in tech is about how much you raise, and we've always been focused on making money, and helping kids, but we started making money right away, and we've always sort of, even before we knew the words like lean startup or agile manifesto, we've been focused on user testing and making a very small product before we make a big one, and so our failures have always come with that little thin slice of product, and then we can quickly get away from that and do something else. And so you know, just going back to that idea of staying agile and nimble and moving quickly if you fail, and actually, not to be cliche, but you know, feeling that that's okay. If you fail with that small piece of the product, that's okay. You set yourself up to either succeed or fail, and those two outcomes are both fine as long as you move past it and don't get dragged down by it.
So it starts with you, and I try to emphasize this to a lot of people because we live in a time where collaboration is critical, team is absolutely essential, but it starts with you. Somebody has got to be willing to say, in Kenny Rogers' words, to know when to hold them and to know when to fold them. And that's, in the end, the decision that if you're running something, you've got to be prepared to make. Second thing is surround yourself with people who don't blow smoke at you. We're willing to be brutally honest so you get the inputs you need, whether on the customer side, whether on your team side, or what have you. And don't be afraid to create an environment in which things get surfaced. So many companies go awry because they're afraid to face the honest brutality. And the third thing is when you're facing a difficult time, don't become risk averse. Theodore Roosevelt once said in a great speech, he said, it's better to fail while daring greatly than to sit on the sideline and be a critic. And so don't be afraid because you think things will kind of come unraveled some things come unraveled. Not everything succeeds in life, but don't get afraid. Don't lose your conviction when you're facing tough challenges.
I don't have all those great quotes, but those are pretty good. So all businesses go through challenges, right, or else anyone would be doing it. So I don't know where to start. I would say that we're a payment gateway. It's a somewhat of a crowded space. There's been a lot of money raised. One of the first things we did, and I was employee #1 in the United States from a company in Israel, was try to hire a team of people, which we brought in about 40 people, which just in the Boston area, which was obviously difficult to do. So we had to explain to them why we thought we had an opportunity to be a real player globally in payments. Second thing was, people in our space raise a lot of money, We've now raised to date over $160 million, which is a lot of money. And to get private equity firms invested in that, they really need to believe in what you're doing and why what we're going to do is being successful. I think the third thing that's hard is people have aspirations to go global. Going global is very, very hard. Trying to manage people across oceans, trying to manage people across time zones, trying to get people to collaborate, and using different methods and tricks to do that, I think is very interesting. So having people have the experience doing that is really, really important. And then I think the last thing is, just constantly got to believe in what you're doing and get up every day and just pursue it, because I think sometimes people start to go at things maybe in a half-word way, and if you're going at it full force every day and you believe in it, you're going to be successful, even though you don't have your greatest weeks sometimes, but knowing the following week is going to be better. So.
I'll just jump in and add one thing.
Absolutely.
So I think that you guys were talking about people, and I do believe that when times get hard in a startup, and during hyper growth, and when pressure is on, good people are the glue in the organization. And whether that's just you and a great co-founder, or whether that's the people that you're hiring as you grow, people make it what it is. And so a great product can fail with bad people and cantankerous environments. So as you're thinking about who you're working with, just make sure you really like them, because you're going to spend a lot of time with them.
The disc profile is really good, so is the Myers-Briggs, but if you have a disc, make sure you have an eye. I'm a 99 16 years of cheerleading. I can smile through just about anything. You want a perky person on your team who has energy 24 hours a day, because you're going to need to siphon some of that off. Seriously.
It's a great, can I just chime in? We've been using the disc for 17 years on II as well.
Yeah.
I also have an ID.
Yeah.
And it's really important.
97D.
Well, back to the point, it's really important to have a balanced team, because if you have everybody's IIs, you're not going to get anything done.
No, you need the C's and the S's.
C's and S's, yeah. And if people have no idea what we're talking about right now, if you don't
Right.
use the disc.
I can't stay in the same room with the C's for very long, though. They're the bean counters. They're the naysayers. They're the ones who are very risk adverse, who let you know that there could be trouble ahead. You need to hear them, but not 24 hours a day. So let's talk about, everybody here, your startups depend on users. So where do you find your users? How do you acquire new users? And what is a good tactic for pretty much any startup?
You're reminding me of every investor I ever speak to.
Yeah, on purpose.
He's taking a look at our company, and we always get that question pretty early on in the conversation. Well, where are you getting your users from? And the question I feel like is often premised with a notion that there's this one big channel, this one silver bullet, and I always say there's no silver bullet.
They're all on Facebook, though.
Right. Well, they're everywhere is the thing, and maybe it's different for different businesses. But for our business, we get them everywhere, and we have a multifaceted approach. And some of our customers, the biggest chunk of our customers, come through referral. They have a friend or a family member who is already a Betterment customer who reaches out and says, "This is great. I really think you could use it. I recommend you go and sign up." That's probably a third, maybe a little more of all of our customers. The rest of them, it's a little bit of everything. We do a lot of content and thought leadership. We put those pieces on our website. We syndicate those to other publications. We do a lot of, frankly, PR and media outreach, that we make sure that we get our story told to the right sources and in the right way. And that leads to a lot of customers. We also invest a lot in paid acquisition, and some of that is online, digital, and some of that is really offline brand building. If you're around the city, keep your eyes open. I'm sure you haven't already. You'll see Betterment cabs, and if you still watch commercials on television, you'll see commercials for Betterment on television. You have to do, at least in our business, a little bit of everything. It's competitive, and then what's really important is you measure. That's really what the conversation about user acquisition should be centered around, is how do you measure, how do you collect the data, understand what's working, what's cost effective, what do the customers from each channel look like, how can you cut out the channels that aren't working, and how can you optimize the channels even further.